Glad to have you join us again. It's Business Breakfast. If you just joined us, you're watching the #1 flagship business program on iBrand Television, Business Breakfast. Now let's get talking now. Our interview segment of the program. We want to analyze, assess and dissect the 2024 budget proposed by the administration led by the Tinubu President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which has already been submitted to the National Assembly for scrutiny. But before we dive into the conversation, let me tell you this, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in a joint session of the Senate and House of Representatives on Wednesday, 29th November 2023, presented the sum of 27.5 trillion naira as the proposed 2024 budget. The president, in his address to the National Assembly, described the 2024 budget as the budget of renewed hope, which is designed to achieve job-rich economic growth, macroeconomic stability, a better investment environment, enhanced human capital development, as well as poverty reduction and greater access to social security. In preparing the 2024 budget, President Tinubu informed lawmakers that the primary objective of his administration is to sustain a robust foundation of economic development, leverage on public-private partnership, and to foster development of renewable energy resources. Speaking on the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure framework, that's MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP, and its fiscal parameters, President Tinubu explained that his administration adopted an oil price benchmark of $77.96 per barrel of crude oil production, estimate at 1.78 million barrels a day, and an exchange rate of 750 naira to a dollar for 2024. To give us more perspective, insight, and also dissect these figures, I'm now being joined live in our Lagos studio by a personal finance expert and also a stockbroker. Charles Fakoga is with me in the studio. Charles, good morning. Once again, glad to have you join me on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Blessed. It's nice being here again.
Charles, let's get talking. I'm not happy, and you are the only person that would rather put me in a good situation.
Okay.
Of course, if you give me reasons to be happy. Charles, you've seen the budget, 27.5 trillion naira. How does this come to you? Do you think that this budget is indeed a budget to reignite hope in the hopelessness of the average Nigerians in Nigeria of today?
Well, it's the taste of a food is in the eating.
Yes.
You know. So for me, yes, budget is just, I won't say a mere proposal, but it's a proposal, whether we like it or not. But looking at the figures, looking at all the items, of course, the total figures about 27.5 trillion and all that, we are going to generate some, we are going to spend some. There's already a deficit, we are going to borrow to finance it and all that. You see, those figures reflect our virtues. Yes, reflect our virtues. And that is why the president cannot just start spending this money from this budget because of the laws. However, he has that power to begin to spend 20% of what is proposed. Yeah. But it has to become a law. And that is why the National Assembly has to deliberate upon it and change some figures. So what we have seen there now, National Assembly still have the right to bring some things down, also increase
it, yeah. You know? Just like we had during Buhari's tenure.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but one thing I'm so happy, at least they will not be talking of budget padding. Yes, because they just hide some item there and all that. But my problem right now is the speedy passage. That is where I am not too comfortable. It's a proposal somebody has brought to you. And it is your work to scrutinize.
Take your time.
Take your time to look at
the figures.
Areas where you are not too clear. You invite those agencies, the ministerial department to come and explain line by line so we understand. Because as soon as it is, now they told us it has passed water second reading and all that, I'm a bit not too happy because it has to pass due process. So why this speedy? Because some of the lawmakers are already complaining that they were not even giving the breakdown for them to go through and come for plenary to debate. That is my first problem now. And I'm saying, no, this is not too good. Because we're talking of, you say, a budget of renewed hope. we should see the budget, not just those figures there. We should see the budget as really giving renewed hope to the downtrodden Nigeria in Beggar bus stop, to the downtrodden Nigeria in Oshodi, to the downtrodden Nigeria in somewhere in Gijiri in Kaduna State, Jere, or somewhere in Oshimili in the Delta State, or even Patani, my village. We want to see how it's going to impact that Nigeria. That is, for me, is a budget.
This budget is government spending for the next fiscal year.
Yes.
With what you've seen here, do you think that the federal government has that ability to discipline himself to spend within the cycle of what is inherent in the budget?
No, it's obvious, yes, the government can do that. Yes. With the crop of ministers we have, with the president, yes. But already, there is already a deficit. And we must now borrow to fund that deficit, which is not something new to us again. It's something that
is a norm in the country,
it's a norm, you know, and all that. My fear again, though there are some little changes here and there compared to the past, where we are servicing with almost 96% of our revenue to service the debt is also a problem. But fine. But you are basing your budget benchmark with your oil production, about
1.78 million barrels per day.
And we know that what happens in that sector, the oil and gas, fine, we could do better than that, but I want to see that the government has put measures in place to prevent those oil thefts and leakage. Because if you look at it, how many people have we actually arrested, prosecuted, sent to jail when it comes to oil theft? All we see, security operative, you burn down badges, and we don't see anything. So I'm also equally not too comfortable because anything can happen in that sector too. So if you say you have your benchmark is about 1 point something million barrel per day, and if at the end of or as we enter the new year we are seeing some of these challenges, I know the security operative are up to the task, because for me, if they cannot stop these oil thefts, then I would just advise the Chief of Defense Staff to resign, and of course the service chief, and of course the IG of police.
In as much as that sounds so good, in as much as that advice sounds so professional, which is the normal thing to do when you're not meeting up with your obligations, your responsibility, you step down. Simple. In as much as that is the case, it's quite unfortunate that we don't see that happening in Nigeria. But let's focus on some of these key parameters now that are in the budget. We're seeing, I remember vividly this administration led by President Tinubu saying that they will not spend much in borrowing to fund critical infrastructure in the country. But what we are seeing now, we're seeing a new borrowing pegged at 7.83 trillion naira, of which 298.49 billion will be derived from privatization proceeds, while 1.05 trillion will be derived from drawdown on multilateral and bilateral loans secured for specific development projects. Charles, it has been said that globally there's nothing wrong in borrowing, provided you are spending on something that is very critical, that is beneficial across the board.
That's true.
But with this kind of figure, my question now is, debt servicing in the country is still astronomically high. So where do we go from here if we keep having such amounts that government intends to borrow in just first year of being in office?
Well, you have just answered your question. There's nothing wrong in borrowing. Debt is a good debt. But from what we have seen now, from our situation now, yes, debt is good. But I would advise the government, we should reduce our external borrowing, because these are dollar denominated.
Yes.
And, you know, the FX
challenges we're having in the country.
Problem. So, but I cannot tell them to stop borrowing. Yes. Now, we should reduce our external borrowing and maybe concentrate on local borrowing. Of course, the DMO is there to coordinate that, which they're already doing. In fact, if you go to DMO, they have external borrowing and they have local borrowing, domestic decks for borrowing. So they can maintain that. And once they are doing those domestic borrowing, we have the regulator there, which is SEC, because they are coming to use the debt capital market. And for SEC, this is where SEC should come up now and ensure that, because in the capital market, if you are coming to raise funds, these funds are supposed to be project specific, and we have seen it. Even what the government has, the Sukuk is a local, a domestic borrowing,
Yes,
and they are tied down to specific road projects,
infrastructure development. Yeah.
So the same, so that if we have this domestic borrowing that we can coordinate, the SEC can see that yes, these monies are used for this purpose, then we are a bit sure that there will be some little respite in terms of these monies borrowed and what they are used for. But for the external, the external borrowing, I don't know which agency will now begin to check government as to what they will use the project for. But for domestic, I know SEC will be able to do that, because even the DMO has no right to even tell federal government what to do with these funds that were borrowed, except this domestic one that we're talking about. So for me, that is what they should do to ensure that these funds that have been borrowed are used for the purpose in which they are.